All right, Sean.
Oh, great point, Sean.
I think you're muted. It doesn't say you're muted. Sean forfeits his pick.
Yeah, get the clock. You are on the clock.
Gets 311.
Headphones on so you hear me better. Damn it.
There you go.
All right. So I was actually Ocean Avenue was on my list of albums I wanted to pick. Just really quick on that. This is one of the few, like, lately I've been going back and listening to Yellow Card and just really thinking about how underrated this album is. Like, this is one of the few bands, if not the only band we'll talk about today, that I can legitimately say I listened to them before they got famous and then they blew up with this album. This was, like, I think I got into them because my friend showed me October Nights on One for the Kids. And I got into them and Taking Back Sunday around the same time. And then Ocean Avenue came out and completely blew up. It's one of my favorite albums that I've ever bought. I think I vividly remember going to pick this one up. In addition to the other album I'm going to bring up right now, I bought both of them at the same time. I bought Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card and Deja Entendu by Brand New.
Nice.
I know we haven't talked about them yet officially, the other Long Island band, but and for me, it was, I had Your Favorite Weapon on my list too, but I wanted to only go with one album by every band I picked today. And for me, I had to give the edge to Deja Entendu. This is where they really, I think, lyrically showed off where they could go. Jesse Lacey really kind of started to embrace that direction they ultimately ended up going in. And especially now being older and starting to listen to different genres, I just recently got really into the Smiths. And, you know, obviously he referenced them on Your Favorite Weapon, but here you really hear a lot of Morrissey on this album. And like you definitely see the influence. Yeah, for me, this is Brand New's peak and overall their best album.
It's a great album. Like Sic Transit Gloria, like it's one of those songs that as you get older, like you really understand what it's about. It's like the anti like song where like the dude is you know, a ladies' man. Like it's looking at it from the like anxiety of like being like your first encounter with, you know, a girl. And like Jesse Lacey is definitely like a piece of shit, but like
Obligatory, Jesse.
like he's like a phenomenal writer.
Yeah, he's a brilliant lyricist. And then Vince on guitar. Like, I think he's an underrated guitarist. They're one of my favorite live bands. Like those guys, they can command the stage and like they like rock up there. Like it just feels like good rock and roll when they're up there playing. And I miss them very much.
Which it's fun. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, I guess you didn't see them at Bamboozle when they're upset about their time slot.
When they
played the same song like 3 or 4 times.
No, I wasn't there that year. Or I
was there. I was super pumped
until later. So.
I hated Taking Back Sunday at that point in my life. I like them now. But I love Brand New because I don't know if you guys remember, there was that huge feud between them. And I chose Brand New's side. And then Jesse Lacey got hammered. I think they played the same song twice.
I mean, he laid down on the stage.
The Gauser's a great song. I'd hear it twice. Yeah, probably pretty happy.
It was a debacle, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah,
bygones be bygones.
I think you like all bands are like different, but when it comes to like Brand New and Taking Back Sunday, you kind of have to like have the argument about them because they're so intertwined. And I love Taking Back Sunday, but I think Brand New is like the musically superior band, like instrumentally and lyrically. Yeah.
I feel like we could get a debate here because I think John Nolan Taking Back Sunday, I agree. Fred Taking Back Sunday, I disagree. Because I think Fred is. I think now remember, this is what I hated Taking Back Sunday back then, so I have no allegiance to John Nolan. To me, Fred is just miles ahead. Like Louder Now, to me, is the best Taking Back Sunday album.
We're a Fred podcast, so that's okay, Frank.
Hell yeah. The Color Fred is also an awesome band.
They just put out an album this year.
What?
Yeah, I know. They need a better marketing team because like I had no idea until my friend texted me. But yeah, like a month or two ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know what they say. Mics are for singing, not for swinging.
Nice. Great.
Direct shots at Adam.
Adam is ours.
All right.
I actually like Taking Back Sunday way more than Brand New though. So
Me too now, knowing what I know about Brand New.
I got into a fight with my ex-girlfriend because I put Brand New on at a bar. So yeah.
Okay. And now this is where we move on to the next topic.
Anyway, this band actually hasn't been mentioned yet. And what's funny is they existed in the 90s and had a pretty big following, I think, before emo really blew up. It's one that came out, I mean, for us, I think we all got into them around the same time, around 2001, 2002, when this album came out. And what's funny is this album actually has a different name. So this album came out immediately after 9/11, and they had to change the name because it was a little controversial at the time. But the album is Bleed American / the self-titled album by Jimmy Eat World. Not an album people really talk about a lot these days, but in terms of vinyls that I want to pick up because they were albums that I listened to just front to back over and over again, this is definitely one that's missing from my collection right now that I'm trying to get. Every song on this is tremendous. Like even some of the non-hits like Hear You Me and some of the songs in between. Sweetness is probably one of my all-time favorite songs. Like Jimmy Eat World is an extremely underrated band. And this for me was their best album.
Bleed American's a great song too. That kicks off the album.
Yeah. Such a strong start to that album. It like really gets you pumped.
yeah, I think what's interesting about this is that when they were creating a lot of these songs, they weren't actually signed at the time. So their manager recommended that they leak the album on Napster. So they leaked their own album on Napster and it created a bidding war. So they ended up signing with DreamWorks, and that's the label that this came out on. But doing some research on these albums and coming across a Napster mention was pretty funny for me. But I think Sean, talking about how no one really talks about this album, that's interesting because I agree. Like you don't hear a lot about it, but the middle has to be far and away their most popular song, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
easily.
Yeah, that song is gigantic. They're another band that their live show just is a reason that I love them as much as I do. I mentioned the American Idiot being my first concert, and Jimmy Eat World opened on that. And then I'd seen them a handful of times again, but I never was seeing Jimmy Eat World. They were always just there. And every time I would leave those shows or festivals saying Jimmy Eat World was by far the best act of the day. And now I make a point to see him as much as I can. Starland in September, if anyone's down, I'm trying to go.
The one time I saw Jimmy Eat World live, like they were awesome. And Matt, keep me honest here. Was it Skate and Surf? They played main stage on the beach, or was that the last?
That's a good
Is
question.
that the last Bamboozle?
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it was as Bamboozle in Asbury, right? Like when Mom
Yeah.
days. Yeah,
Yeah, when they came back, yeah.
yeah, I was at
Yeah, I
that
don't
too.
know.
Killer.
The one
was
with
awesome.
Bon Jovi and Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brand new.
yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Midtown played that too.
They also say that, and then so did Skrillex, I believe. So,
Yeah.
right, guys, big Skrillex guys, big
First to
from
last.
first to last Skrillex guys.
Oh man.
Early screamo.
Before he shaved the side of his head. The Sonny sucks at singing. I'll just throw that right now. Note to Self is a great song for every reason besides Sonny singing, and then Emily. Sorry if you guys have from first to last on this list.
Nah.
So I apologize.
I think you're good with me at least.
All right, so I guess I'll take my next pick here. I'm gonna go with. I'm not sure if this is an album that any of you guys would have picked, but it's again another super influential album for me when it came to discovering bands on my own, and that's "Say It Like You Mean It" from The Starting Line. And you guys are gonna quickly realize that a lot of my most influential bands were drive-through bands. Like I was a big drive-through kid back in the day, but oh man, when this album came out, I was freshman in high school, and I thought every single popular girl was missing out on me. And this album really speaks to that, like the nerdy kid who just wants the perfect girl to be in love with him. And this song just hit all of those like high school, like I don't know what to do with my emotions feelings. And it's a really fun album for me. Like it kicks off with the song Up and Go, and it's pretty fast paced along the way. They've got like one acoustic song on there, but I feel like Kenny Vasoli really just personified every scrawny emo kid who was dreaming about the hottest girl in high school that he couldn't have, and that was me back in the day, right? So I don't know. I love this album so much. It's another great drive-through album. For me, like one of my favorite songs on there is a song called Almost There, Going Nowhere, and just a lot of teen angst, but not a lot of, it didn't really feel like angst, but if you listen back to it, you're like, oh man, this is just all those pathetic feelings I had back in the day wrapped into some really catchy tunes. And yeah, I love it. And bring it back to some of the stuff that we were talking about before. Some of the highlights on the album are actually when Nate from Finch is screaming on it. He's got a couple of us. Yes, yeah. So another album that I've been lucky enough to see played from front to back. Frankie, I think you were at that show with us actually. It's at that Asbury Convention Center, but a lot of good starting line shows. They're another band that comes back every year and does a holiday show. So get to go live back my high school emo days when I see them. But yeah, starting line, Say It Like You Mean It.
Kenny does a great cover of Never Had a Knock on Wood acoustic.
Mighty Mighty Boss Stones.
Yeah. Matt and I went to an emo night, and he came on, and we're all like, "Great, he's gonna play some like covers of songs that people going to emo night would love to hear." And he played stuff on like newer albums, and then he played a cover of Never Had a Knock on Wood by Mighty Mighty Boss Stones.
A dude who always probably thought he was more musically inclined than he actually was, and I love the starting line, but it's like, bro, no one wanted to hear some Personnel songs at emo night.
Saw them live too.
That's a great pick, though.
Great.
I had them on my list too, because this one on my list too, because I feel like every song on here is phenomenal, and like you said, it hits on that teen angst. Like Saddest Girl Story has always been one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Left Coast Envy, like being from New Jersey, you get the idea of like giving up the sunrise for a sunset, because we see the sunrise, and West Coast sees the sunset.
They're pretty like low-key a little bit clever with some of their lyrics sometimes, but and they shout out Jersey too, and given the chance too.
They do.
So
Yeah.
they're a Philly band, but I think they associated with Jersey a lot back in the day.
Their front guy, their vocalist, he plays bass too, right? I would think that's pretty
He
cool.
does. Mm-hmm.
You don't get a lot of
bass
front
player.
bassmen. Shout out Mark Thomas.
Yeah, Mark
we,
and
we went too long without talking about Blink, so I just
Yeah, very bad. Somebody
Mark
bring that back.
reset the Blink clock.
Yeah, Mark and Mike Carrera from MXPX are the other two frontman bassists that I can think of. But yeah, that's a good point. Not a whole lot of bassists out there singing.
Sting and the Police.
God, wow, yeah.
Oh, why have we talked about Sting?
About
Really
time.
dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, I've been waiting, man.
I gave away my next pick.
Imagine, you're like, I don't know if this is in this time period, but it has to be mentioned.
I really like Roxanne. So.
Yeah. Really emo song. It is kind of emo.
All right, Brett, take it from me. What are you gonna take? I'm so
All
scared.
right, let's see. I was locked in. I wasn't even paying attention to my next pick. But oh wait, okay, yeah, this is an easy one. All right, so transitioning from kind of like my gateway into the scene to one that might be scene adjacent, but it's one of my favorite albums of all time. It's very Jersey. It's the Gaslight Anthem, 59 Sound. I remember hearing this in college for the first time and thinking it was like a modern day Springsteen, only with like a punkier edge, maybe a little bit,
Do your
especially their first album. But Great Expectation. I miss what you said.
I said through your grandmother's radio.
Very good. I see what you did there. But yeah, like remember hearing Great Expectation for the first time and just like being blown away, and like the rest of the album just you relate to Jersey Rain and things like that. And I think Brian Fallon's an incredible songwriter, which he's shown throughout his career. Maybe not so much on the last Gaslight album before they reunited, but they're one of my favorite bands, and this album kind of really introduced me to them, and I've been in love with that band ever since.
Good pick.
Yeah, this one was on my list too, Brett. This is maybe a fringe band if you think about it, but I definitely include them in the pop punk genre. I think you can probably say they exist within other genres too. I think they're kind of a blend of different things, but this again is one of those albums that front to back is just a great listen. I even have a lyric sheet on my wall that says all you can do is just wait by the moon and believe if that's what she says you ought to do. Like this to me was their breakout album for sure. And they're just a tremendous band. I wish Handwritten fell within this time frame because I would have picked them or
It was
would have picked that
close.
probably, but yeah, just missed that.
Sink or Swim, I love too. I feel like that one never gets enough love. That was them when like they were really
Yeah.
punky.
I think it's a valid band for this genre. Like I know it's not this album, but like 45 is a pop punk song.
It is.
Like
Yeah, it's
you
got the
know,
root notes and the changes. And,
yeah, like that when that song hit, like it blew my mind.
When they turned the record over.
Yeah, when they turned the record over, I was like, wow, this is a great song. What a great song. Shut up, Brett.
All right, so I'm kind of surprised I'm getting this far in, but is a real boy. Just like, man, what a fun, interesting album. It's so creative. Like the songs don't follow any sort of structure, but they do at the same time. Speaking of like amazing lyricists, like Max Bemis is just, he's crazy.
Yep.
He is just something else. Those metaphors blow my mind every time. Like just the way the songs like star heavy, then they break it down and they have these like beautiful parts to them, and it's just such a fun album front to back. I'll never get tired of singing this album or playing it on guitar.
Max Bemis is crazy. Yeah,
He is
it's
crazy. And he is a great lyricist. I really like that he takes chances. Like some of his lyrics are batshit crazy, but he can be pretty clever at times. This was actually one I had written down in my stupid spreadsheet that I'm looking at right now. So excellent pick there. This is a tremendous album, probably their best work.
One of the best album intros ever too, just with like the spoken word confusion before belt. Like I
Yeah,
have to
for sure.
record the intro of the album. And then like just the
That's
songs,
it?
like they're just so interesting. Like Woe comes in with just like that walking bass line, and it's just like they you said it great, Frank. Like they take chances, and it shows like in all their songs. Such a good band. And I got into this band. I got into them late. Like I had them on a mix CD that I got handed out at Bamboozle, but like I knew Glory of Love and Spider Song, and that was kind of it. And then when I got to college, it was finally then that like I really just got addicted to them. And I look back at some of these bands, like what was I thinking when I was younger, missing them? But you know, you find bands when you find them, and maybe that works out for the best sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it speaks for them too that they're one of those bands where when they come out with a new album, I'm still like some bands, it's like, oh, cool, they have a new album out. That's great. But like Say Anything's one of those bands where I'm still legitimately excited when I hear they have a new album coming out because like I know it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be the same stuff we've been listening to the entire time. Like they're going to find new ways to really evolve or push the envelope in Max Bemis's case.
Yeah, they rarely miss. Like I thought Anarchy, My Dear was like a great album too,
I
and that
love that
came
album.
out so much later in their career. And then I think they kind of like called it after that, right? Like they had Hebrews with all the features, which was cool, but it didn't feel. I guess that felt like a Say Anything album. It was just different with the features, but yeah.
They put out that one final album, which they wanted to make like a sequel to Is a Real Boy, but it just didn't connect
Oh
at all.
yeah, with part 2 to what's it called? Part 2 to I'm drawing a blank here.
Not Admit It, because that was on another
No,
album.
yeah,
Right? Admit It
Admit It.
Again.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I don't know, but yeah, you think they're completely done? Like they got to come back for a tour eventually, right? I don't
You
know.
got to look
Max
at the
Bemis is
20-year
crazy.
mark. Yeah, 2024 will be the 20-year mark for this album. I feel like every band now is doing 20-year tour.
It's easy money, and they probably enjoy touring on it. I would hope, at least some of them. I don't know. If you can get everyone to a small club screaming your lyrics, like you'd be crazy not
Gotta
to
be
do
pretty
it.
fun.
Yeah, and get paid. Come on.
I
Which
wonder
Oh, go ahead, man.
I wonder how much desire he has to go back out and tour. I think he's married to this girl Sherry from this band Isley, and they kind of just hang out and live. They've got 5 kids, and I think they live down in Texas, and they've got, you know, their whole family thing going on. So I wonder if he's got the desire to go out and do that anymore.
Got to bring the band back together so we could sing songs about Holocaust love stories.
Right.
They
Which-
still do the thing where you can like submit, like you pay and they'll write a song for you, like Max and Sherry. They were doing that for a little while.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know. Let's do it. Let's get him to write an intro for the pod.
That'd be
Write a song
awesome.
about Frank.
I don't want to hear Max Bemis's song about me. I feel like I'd be insulted for 3 straight minutes. All right, who's up?
You are.
Yeah, shit, it's me.
I think it's you.
Okay, all right. I have like a million albums. This is gonna be my 4th and 5th. Okay, so this one I don't even know if anybody's gonna really care besides maybe Sean, but for me, this was one of the albums that got me into pop punk, and I feel like they're underrated, even though I found out this album sold over 100,000 records. Rufio, perhaps, I suppose.
No.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be my last pick.
Yeah, no, the great part about this is that Sean wanted to pick them, so now I'm picking them. So like
Spite take.
this album is so good just end to end, but what I love is that their guitarist is insane. Like a lot of pop punk albums, and I'm not a great guitarist, but they're easy to play. Like you can pretty much get yourself through it. I can't play one Rufio song. They were able to take like pop punk elements, but then like put like these almost math rocky like riffs over some songs. Like Above Me, like the intro is so fast. My fingers would like start cramping up anytime I tried to play it. On their demo of this album, they literally have like the Rufio intro from Hook, where it's like Rufio, 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 and then it hits into the lead into Above Me. The first song that I actually got into on this album was In My Eyes, which was played at a Battle of the Bands at my high school or maybe even middle school. Shout out Cameron, the name of the band that played it, who doesn't exist anymore. But I was hooked, and like I was obsessed with their album, and they have like emo-y like songs like Tears that are like literally like dark topics of songs, and they have like just fast-paced pop punk. So to me, like this was one of the first that got me into this. Also, their follow-up album Comfort from Home, which didn't get a lot of a lot of sales, is an awesome listen if you guys are listening to or looking for other albums to listen to.
Yeah, like I was obsessed with this album in 8th grade. I listened to it nonstop. Like I don't even think I had a real copy. I think I just downloaded each and every single song on Kazaa and put it together in the wrong order. And some of them were even like demos that I didn't realize at the time. But I was obsessed with Rufio, and especially this album. Like every song on it's incredible. And like I think the thing that really stands out, Frank, you said it, they're not for everybody, number one, because of the lead singer's voice. I happen to like it, but for some people I get why it might not be for them. But the guitarist just absolutely shreds. And even the bass player, like on that song Still, like the little intro there, some of the best bass playing I think within the genre that I've ever heard. To me, this album is one of my all-time favorites, even outside of pop punk. It's a tremendous album all around. And this is definitely would have been one of my picks had you not picked this right here.
I struggled to play Still on guitar, and the fact that like this dude was able to just shred that on a bass was insane to me. So like it's just such a good album. Even the interludes on the album, which normally interludes I'm like whatever I'll skip, are like they could be awesome songs if they were just put time behind.
Raining in September, yeah. It just ends. It's like, wait, that's it? I want more of this.
Give me a whole song, damn it. All right, so that's my first of the wraparound. Oh God,
I don't get how I've never heard that album before. I feel like I'm doing such a disservice to my
Never heard
pop
of
punk
this.
fandom.
I've never heard of them either, Brett.
check it
But
out.
I've been listening while you guys were talking about it, and you're right, that bass intro is killer, and the guitar intro on the first track is also killer. So
I'll be listening.
yeah,
Yeah. It's an awesome album. Okay. The next band I'm choosing is Census Fail. I am narrowing down. My heart tells me Let It Enfold You. Or sorry, my emo side says Let It Enfold You, but I'm going with Still Searching because
yeah,
Let It Enfold You, old school Census Fail before my boy Heath got in the band, was great, but it was very on the nose. They're like musically, like the songs were catchy, but every song basically followed the same structure. It was, Buddy like screaming over a song, and then there was like a slow bridge, and then ended like super heavy. Like Still Searching is a rock album through and through. Every song like is insane. Calling All Cars might be my favorite. One of my favorite. I've said that a million times, but like, that is one of my favorite songs. Shark Attack, another Madden song, was on this album. Can't Be Saved, Guitar Hero. That's not how I rank albums, just by how many times they're in video games. But I have a soft spot, obviously, because Heath, who is a brother of a good friend of ours, was pretty much what changed this. But they just escalated musically from their last album to this album. Like, it was no jump I've ever seen for a band. So, and then Priest of the Matador, such a step change, the Negative Space into Priest of the
yeah. The whole
Matador.
three at the end, the whole trio.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a great point. Like,
Yeah,
actually, you're right, because All the Best Cowboys is like such a different song.
yeah, and the Negative Space is him like falling through the air
Yeah.
after he like climbs the building, and then like him laying up. Like I used to listen to those three just like over and over
Yeah.
because it just I like concept stuff as
No,
we learned. But like those last three is just such a cool trio to end an album.
yeah. And like Buddy he rips. Like, he's not the best singer and he knows it, but when you watch him live, it's just full energy from start to finish. And Census
Yeah.
Fail will always be like one of my favorite bands, New Jersey's own. Love
Yeah.
them.
He grew up. He went to my wife's high school, buddy. She just missed him. He's a little older, but Ridgewood guy.
Yeah. I remember we would face the Ridgewood football team, and like a kid on my team was like, "Hey, I love Census Fail," and the kid was like, "F you, man! Like, we just beat the crap out of you. Shut up."
Census Fail, another band that the MCA drive-through band almost killed, because after the success of their EP, MCA upstreamed them as well, as happened to a lot of these drive-through bands. And right around the time that they upstreamed them to MCA, Geffen actually bought MCA, and Geffen hated Let It Enfold You. Like, they really did not like Let It Enfold You, and Let It Enfold You was shelved for like 8 months while they made them write a couple new singles that ended up being Rum is for Drinking and Buried Alive. But at that point, like, Geffen and Census Fail were at like such odds that they essentially figured out a way to move up and then back down record labels. So like Geffen was under the Interscope umbrella, so they convinced someone that was working for Vagrant at the time to kind of talk to Interscope, and Geffen moved Census Fail to Interscoped, and then Interscoped moved Census Fail back down to Vagrant Records. So they were able to go from a major down to a more independent label through this weird, like, moving of pieces. And if that didn't happen, like, Let It Enfold You might not have came out for an official release, because that's another album that eventually got leaked by the band because they were so fed up with their label. And then Frank's album that he picked, that came out on Vagrant as well. So that like weird process of being in limbo for a little bit there almost killed Census Fail. And credits to them for pursuing through what was a pretty tough time for their band.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention Dan Trapp is definitely one of the top drummers of this era. He's absurd.
He was
And
like
Matt,
the last like original band member till like recently, right?
Yeah.
When did Garrett leave?
I think him and Dan left around the same time.
Great band.
Speaking of Heath, did you like Life is a Waiting Room too?
Oh yeah. Those two
Family
to me, it's
tradition,
almost like
yeah.
a continuation of the same album. So like,
Yeah, that was a great time for Census Fail. They were
Like that one never gets the
locked
love
in.
that like Still Searching does though.
Is that just
I
came
like-
out of nowhere for Census Fail? Like
Yeah.
nobody
I like-
expected that level of ability from Census Fail.
I kind of like Life is Not a Waiting Room more than Still Searching. Still Searching is really, really good, but I felt like Life is Not a Waiting Room. Maybe it wasn't as deep, like because I know you guys talked about those trio songs at the end there, but they did some cool concept stuff on that album too, where they kept bringing back the "Wake up, you're sleeping" line, like that pops up in a few
Yeah.
lines. So they were doing that
Yes.
a little bit there too.
And Wolves
I'll
that
revisit
was
it.
in Madden. So
There we go. The Madden connection.
just letting you
Well, Set the
go.
Door is such a banger.
It is.
All right, I'm up. All right, we already talked about this band, but this album is for when it's getting a little late on the road trip. The sun's going down. I'm getting tired, but I still need to be kept up while I'm driving. The Devil and God raging inside me. We talked about Brand New already, but I love this album. This was the album that got me into Brand New. We said everything before, but just great lyrics, great instrumentals, great lows and highs, which I love in music. Quiets to louds, it's great. Yeah, need it on the list.
It's a sleeper pick from Brand New.
Yeah,
It's a great pick.
I just love that album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's really not an album by them I don't love. Like Daisy, I could have picked Daisy and been pretty happy with it too, but Devil and God just has that quiet to loud thing just locked in perfectly. Perfect for road trip.
Yeah.
Do you guys still listen to Brand New like regularly?
Not regularly, but I still enjoy their first
Yeah.
couple albums.
If it's in a playlist, I won't change it. Put it that way.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So I'm never sure if I'm allowed to talk about them or not.
Separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still like them, and my wife still likes them, so
Yeah.
we're allowed to just play them.
Good music.
That's
Act like
Great
another
songs.
band played it. Taking Back Sunday. Deja Entendu by Taking Back Sunday.
Okay, Brett.
Sean's cat his thoughts.
Yeah, sorry. Evie has a lot of thoughts about Brand New.
She's showing her ass to the camera, so
She's really offended that we mentioned Jesse Lacey on this podcast twice now.
you're gonna get Matt fired because your cat's whole ass is on the on the
It's not a
podcast.
video podcast, is it?
I put it on
God.
YouTube also.
Hell yeah. Can't wait to hear how dumb my voice sounds. All right,
Is it
Brett.
me now?
It's you.
All right. So I don't know how this fell to me, but I'm gonna have to take it here. So I'm going with Silverstein, Discovering the Waterfront.
Oh.
I don't know why this is still here this late, but maybe
Yeah.
I just rate it higher. I don't know.
That
But
myth.
You just did me a big favor. You did me a big favor because I was struggling with which Silverstein album to go with. So
there were so many. I was torn between two, but I went with this one just because this kind of
Yep.
this introduced me to them. It set the tone, and I feel like when Broken is easily fixed didn't really stick with me at first, and then I absolutely love this one from front to back. You know, Your Sword versus My Dagger, just always a banger. I think I've went on both anniversary tours of this album that they've done, and they kill it live still. And I love every single song on this album. This is the last concert I saw before the COVID lockdown, and I had no voice for 3 days, but I made sure that I went really hard there. And you guys were there too.
Yeah.
But this is definitely, I don't know if I can call it their best album because I feel like they're still putting out great material now. So
It's
maybe
not as
their
mature
best,
as some
but
of their newer
it's
stuff,
not.
but-
Yeah,
But it has the nostalgia factor, which adds some points.
that's probably what adds to it for me.
It is a great, fantastic album.
It is.
Also, I mentioned the Jimmy Eat World show. The Silverstein show is the day before, so weekend at Starland. Gonna keep pushing that. Silverstein
I'll be-
Friday, Jimmy Eat World Saturday
I do have tickets to Silverstein on Friday.
Ooh.
at Starland. Or
Yeah, they're a band that I don't miss live. I will see them every single time that they.
You got
come.
the Silverstein hoodie on. I just saw that.
I do, yeah. I got this on the Silverstein Beartooth tour from back in April.
they weren't playing any good locations for that tour.
It was
It's like
a really
Albany. I don't want to go to Albany or Trenton.
Yeah, the trend, it was weird. It was a minor league / college hockey arena.
It's kind of
I don't
cool.
know.
Somewhere
Yeah,
different.
it was different.
Yeah, but they're a band that is still keeping it like fresh after all these years, and you gotta just respect bands that can do that. Like their sound, but they still manage to make it interesting and make me want to listen to their music and see them live after 20 years. Like, come on, it's amazing.
Yeah,
We-
that show that Brett was talking about, they actually recorded the entire thing and just released it on vinyl,
Yeah,
and
it's on
which
vinyl.
is pretty cool that they were able to do that. Like it's a Starland specific one. It says like live at Starland Ballroom on it.
Oh, it's
So
sick.
it's kind of cool to be there for that. They don't stream it, so I listened a couple times. But
It's on Bandcamp somewhere too. I was
It
at that
is,
show
yeah.
also.
oh, is it?
Maybe we
Yeah.
met.
Silverstein. Just to go kind of what Brett is saying, Silverstein, I've kind of recently discovered is probably my favorite band right now. And I think one of the reasons why is because their old music does have such a strong sense of nostalgia for me, but they're one of the only bands that I feel like has grown up with me. Like their music has matured as I've matured, and it's still just as good, but so different. Like it's
Yeah.
always Silverstein. And I know you guys had when Misery Made Me came out, you guys were talking a little bit about how Silverstein's been doing a podcast breaking down every single song. And one thing that Paul Mark, their I would say he's their new guitar player. He's been in the band for like 10 years now, but he's been like their main songwriter for the last two albums. And he says that whenever he brings in a new song, he knows that when Shane puts his vocals over it, it's gonna be Silverstein. And I think that's a really interesting and impressive aspect of their band, is that they're able to mature and diversify the type of music that they play. And because Shane ties it all together, it's always Silverstein. And this, if I were drafting here, this it would have been really tough for me because I want to have a Silverstein album on here, and Discovering the Waterfront's the album that's going to win you the draft. Where even though When Broken is Easily Fixed would probably be my pick, Discovering the Waterfront is really what's going to get the votes in our hypothetical competition here.
I was torn between this and Shipwreck. Is like one of my favorites too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Shipwreck is so good. What a man. Another one that was probably like, I feel like that was their first exploration into like a concept album, having one central theme, and they've done that a few times since, and I feel like they do such a good job with it.
Is that their first like having a bunch of guests on too?
Yeah, I think so. They're interesting. They are a very guest heavy band, right? Like they always have features, and they always talk about how they want their guests to fit the song. They don't just want this, like when they write the song, they have a guest in mind, and if they can't get that guest, then they just don't do the feature.
And Matt, what's their best album? Now that I saw you shake your head when I said this might be their best.
Dead Reflections, my favorite
Okay.
album of theirs. I think it's their best album. That's for me, again, like just the maturity level, it's super heavy, but it is super painful, if that makes sense, in the lyrics. Like Shane wrote it after going through a really, really hard time in his life with a relationship. I think he was in a pretty bad relationship that ended very poorly. And every lyric, I feel that pain that he was going through, and that those lyrics on top of such a heavy album, there's just something about it. Like, I think it's their best work far and away to date.
Yeah, Retrograde is incredible.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it hits
One of the
so
best
hard. It
breakdowns
hits
I
so
had.
hard. Yeah.
They write some of the like best like melodically heavy songs, like where it's not just like a hardcore song with like crazy like. I was late to the game with Silverstein, fully admit, and Matt kind of like brought me to some shows, and I was like, oh, let's check it out. And their songs are so fun, like perfect driving music. So it's a great album to put in your six.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to keep it rolling with Silverstein, I guess I'll go ahead and take When Broken is Easily Fixed for my next album. Go back-to-back Silverstein picks here. But yeah, like I said, they really are one of my favorite bands. And I think what I love the most about them is that as I've gotten older, the music's matured, but it doesn't change the way that I feel about their first album. And this album is the album that got me into Screamo. And I had a couple buddies in high school that were like, all right, you need to hear this album. And I started listening to it. And then a week later, we went down to skate and surf for, I think, my 16th birthday. Silverstein was playing out on the lawn out in front of the Asbury Park Convention Center at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we were legitimately racing trying to get there because we all needed to see Silverstein. And that was it for me. Like, they opened up a huge door. And when it comes to screaming and music, I hadn't really been into any bands like that at that time. And now I love a lot of music like that. So they're one of the few bands that's really stuck with me since, from 16 all the way to, 34 now.
Yeah. And specifically screaming with clean vocals, I think is important distinction, because that contrast that these bands do in this genre, like it really it makes the screams hit harder and it makes the clean that much more satisfying to hear. Matt, you're muted.
Damn it, Matt.
I was talking to someone else.
But
I was agreeing with my excellent point.
I love that point though.
Sorry, can you remake that point? I had a neighbor come and try talking to me.
I just said the screams hit harder when there's clean vocals, and the clean vocals are that much more satisfying when there's screams. And Silverstein does it well.
Yes, yeah, completely agree. Sorry, sorry, I missed that.
No, you're good.
That's the best part about post-hardcore bands, in my opinion. Is I like hardcore music and I like screamo, but bands that can have a lead singer that can do both, it was such a separate. Which I'm hoping that my next band doesn't get picked because it's in that genre.
All right, I won't mention one that I'm thinking of right now because some of them early on really. They leaned on the screams just enough where right when I thought I was getting sick of it, they'd come in with clean vocals, and it was just it was really well balanced.
I'm interested.
I think
who
that's
you're
why I
thinking.
picked Silverstein too. Probably the band that Frank wants to mention but won't mention.
Don't say it.
Are you gonna spite pick again, Sean?
Don't do it. No, I spite pick Sean.
Get it back.
Don't. You don't even like the band. I'm picking him.
Actually, for mine, I have to ask the panel if this album applies here because it's kind of outside the genre. It's similar.
College Dropout.
It's
Hybrid Theory, yes, of course.
It's actually it's The Stranger by Billy Joel. No.
Strictly 80s.
This album came out in 2004. It's there's definitely tracks on it where you could see some pop punk influence, but there's also a little bit of techno influence on it. I'm gonna go with, if it's allowed by the panel here, Hot Fuss by the Killers.
Yeah, I think the
I think
Killers falls
I
right.
think they fall under emo adjacent or emo.
Frank
They're Jace for sure. But yeah, when it comes to albums that really made an impact on me, I was really thinking back to those high school years, especially for the peak of the pop punk genre, and the Killers were a band I was really into around that time. They were a little bit more mature than some of the other bands that were out there at the same time. I think a lot of that is Brandon Flowers, the lead singer. His influence comes from Springsteen and a lot of other bands that I've since gotten into after growing up a little bit and maturing myself. And you definitely see that, especially after this album, with some of the albums that came out afterwards, like Sam's Town, which I almost had on my list here too. Hot Fuss is definitely their most popular album, and for good reason. Mr. Brightside is one of everybody's favorite songs. It's a fantastic song, and every song in that album is just tremendous. Easy pick for me. Definitely one of my all-time favorites to this day.
The only reason why, absolutely valid. After this podcast, when we put our drafts together and they see that the Killers were available and lasted this long in the draft, they're just gonna look at the rest of us what the hell were you guys thinking? So it's awesome pick.
That's a fair point. And
it's totally fine.
They're a band
if we'd established who was included earlier on, I might have picked them earlier to get them on my list because I definitely wanted this album. So I kind of felt I could wait on it because it's not an obvious pick within the genre. So I get what you're saying, but yeah, I just had to put this on my list if it was allowed.
Of course.
I think it counts because it's on the Johnny Max playlist, and the Johnny Max playlist is loaded with emo music.
Nice.
So
Go.
Johnny
Shout-
Max, I'll allow it.
Shout out my
If
wedding
it's on the
DJ.
Johnny Max playlist, it counts.
Yeah, that guy's my wedding DJ, the house DJ Johnny Mac.
I
Oh,
can't
wow.
tell if you're joking or not.
Swear to God.
All right. This is where it gets hard. There's
Number 6 for you?
yeah, this is number
Alright.
6.
Don't screw it up, Sean.
I mean, 2 of my other for sure picks were taken already. Is a Real Boy would definitely have been one of them, and perhaps I suppose we're definitely on my list. There's a few here I can pick. You know what? I was thinking of maybe the album that inspired this whole conversation, but in all fairness, I feel like I'm not as big of a fan as some of the others here, so I don't even want to take this album. I'm gonna have to go with The Room's Too Cold by the Early November. I feel like I had to include the Early November, and if we could allow full triple disc albums, for sure, The Mother, The Mechanic, and The Path would have been my pick. I think if you start to split up that album, then it becomes tricky. I'd probably go with The Mechanic, but I think if you compare The Mechanic itself to The Room's Too Cold, The Room's Too Cold's a slightly stronger album. They pack a lot of different like subgenres into this one album. It's very heavily emo, for sure, but there's a lot mixed throughout. Just really happy, upbeat songs like Fluxy and Baby Blue, and then some really slow, like sad songs that they're kind of famous for. The pacing of this album is just great. And I really like the way that this album flows from one song to the next. You really kind of, they planted seeds a little bit here that they were going to do like a concept album, I think, in the future. And you could definitely tell listening to it. Ace just kind of scratches the surface of what he can do vocally, but you can definitely see that he's a great singer there. Just really a great album.
Their EP just before this like would have been one of the EPs I included if we were like really focusing on that.
Yeah.
Because that pretty much set the tone, and then like they kind of just mastered their sound, I feel like, on Room's Too Cold.
And it's almost album length too. So like when we said EPs were allowed, I was like, I don't know if I want to waste any votes on like EPs because they tend to be so short. But that one is almost like album length. So I was like,
It was 8 tracks, right?
But I would still probably give the edge to The Room's Too Cold.
I'm waiting for Matt to mention that they're a drive-through band.
They are.
They are.
Yeah. Which
Kenny
when we
was
get
on
to
this
my
album from starting.
Yeah,
line.
Kenny was on this album. I think Early November is, one of my favorite bands from back in the day too. And Ace was just such an insanely talented musician. I'm honestly shocked that he never became a bigger solo artist. Like I kind of look at him and I think there's some parallels there between him and Andrew McMahon from Something Corporate.
Yeah.
Where they both started off in these bands, frontmen for drive-through bands, and Andrew McMahon was able to take his solo career going from like Something Corporate to Jack's Mannequin, and then Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. And I almost wonder how Ace didn't follow a similar path, because Ace went from the Early November to I Can Make a Mess, and then he had some solo stuff. And I think both of them are equally talented artists, but Ace just never broke through the way that Andrew did. And I wonder why that is. Maybe it's the piano versus guitar thing, but I do feel like Ace has the same songwriting skills and the same musical acumen as some of the bigger singer-songwriters out there.
Yeah, and maybe even a better voice than Andrew McMahon, if I'm being honest. He's doing pretty well for himself, though, from what I hear. My barber actually worked with Joe Anello and managed the Early November, and mentioned that Ace, I don't know if you heard, Matt, but Ace is writing music for Hallmark specials now. Like, he's doing that.
Really?
Yeah, he's making a
crazy.
ton of money and like doing great with it. So I guess he's
Never
kind of doing
guessed
that
that.
full time. And then like they contractually have to release an album by like the end of 2022. So I think they do have an album coming out this year.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's really funny to see what some of these artists end up doing later on in their careers, like where they end up. But I think if you guys know American Hi-Fi, I think the guy from Flavor of the Week, right? Pretty sure
Yeah.
he's like the musical director for Miley Cyrus now.
Are you
hear about
serious?
all these- Yeah. American Hi-Fi was a not to get too far off onto a tangent, but American Hi-Fi was like a Berkeley project that ended up making some pretty crazy music, and then those guys all went off to do some other very prominent music industry roles. But I guess Sean, since I was talking about something corporate, I'll wrap up my my draft here, going with something corporate's Leaving Through the Window. So my last drive-through band here,
Classic.
and yeah, I really just love this album. I think the songwriting is pretty impressive for a band so early in their career, and I really like the aspect of that. It was pop punk, but they also always classified themselves as piano rock, which I found pretty interesting because while it was a pop punk album, the piano did kind of tie it into a different genre. So for me, I just, again, like I'm a very drive-through centric person where I loved the drive-through bands back in the day, and this was another upstreamed album, right, that went from drive-through to MCA, and this is a situation though where that actually worked, where this was a really good album that performed well, and I think it sold like over 300,000 albums. So while not all these bands found success on MCA, like this is one that did, and it was a clear jumping off point for Andrew McMahon, who is a pretty incredible artist and was able to take his success with something corporate and roll that into Jack's Mannequin and then his own personal solo stuff. So that'll wrap up my draft, my Leaving Through the Window pick from something corporate.
I was surprised, Matt. There was an album I thought was a shoo-in that you were gonna take. It
I
was
will
right up-
say, like, man, I will say, I coming into this, I had a bunch of albums written that I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna have this. Like, I was gonna argue really hard for the Mark Tom and Travis show, because even though a lot of that is Enema of the State, that was the album that made me fall in love with Blink. But I felt like we talked about Blink so much, I was like, oh, let me grab something different here. And then obviously Sticks and Stones hasn't picked, but I've already gone with a Newfound Glory album. There's some
We can
some
do
other really.
at the
What's
end.
that?
We can do 10 minutes of honorable mentions.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I
fair.
have
we have
I
to
have
do
some
that,
heavy hitters,
obviously.
and then the other album I was gonna try to convince you guys to let me take was the a compilation album that Atticus put out back in the day. It was called Atticus Dragging the Lake, and it has like all these. I listened to this thing nonstop. It's how I discovered so many bands, but it has some pretty awesome songs on it. Maybe we'll discuss at the end, but I went pretty drive-through centric, so I figured I had to end there.
Nice. And what was our cutoff? 2011.
Yes.
Yeah.
I won't say because they're still on the board, but I could have swore this was going to be your pick.
Right. Brett.
It's tough.
All the marbles, Brett.
It is. So I'm really torn between two again. This keeps happening.
Two again?
Two
Another
again.
Oh, you're going with another Taking Back Sunday.
Going with Punk Goes Crunk.
What's
No.
No compilation now.
Yeah, I gotta go. Just because I feel like they deserve a spot on here and no one said them yet.
I know.
So I'm gonna throw them in here. Sum 41, All Killer, No Filler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got Fat Lip, you got Motivation. Like they kind of grew out of Blink-182, but kind of geared more towards the metal side, I feel like. Like they really leaned into that more, and they definitely shred more. Like Brown sounds an incredible guitarist. And I'm glad he's back with the band now. But I know like they don't remember making this album because like they were just drunk the entire time, as you could tell by like the album cover. But it's such a fun album. Like this is one you can throw on at a barbecue when you're driving. It's over before you know it, but like you're ready to put it right back on again because like every song is good. They're not too long of songs. They're fun. You got Summer on there too. It's just I'll always love this album because like Fat Lip was huge, like when I was 11 and 10. So
yeah,
Fat Lip
No
got
Filler
to,
it is.
Yeah, Fat Lip got to number 1 on TRL once. So just to
It did.
put it
Yeah.
into perspective when this thing came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did
huge.
Nookie, I think.
Probably.
Yeah. Great songs.
All Killers.
We'll save that for the rap metal round table.
All Killers
I was
one
a
of
little
my
worried we
favorite
were-
albums to
go.
just rip through on my guitar.
Yeah.
Like you could crush like 2 or 3 beers on a Friday afternoon, 30
Like they
minutes,
did.
you're done. Yeah. It's just a great little like pregame album. It's so fun.
The video for In Too Deep, where he comes out of the water just shredding. Oh,
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. I knew
Dude,
you were
Greatest music video of all time, easily.
that would be another round table of just like awesome pop. Like that would absolutely be number one. Just when he comes out, it's
Remember Fuse, like how good that channel was?
Yep.
Yep.
For Much
It was a
Music
little bit-
USA.
MTV2
Oh,
was
yeah.
another great one.
MTV2.
Yeah,
They
'cause
had
they
like
were
all
like
the all
videos nonstop, right?
yeah, and they had like all the
And
new
it-
metal bands I was into, like
Headbangers
Taproot,
Ball.
baby, let's go,
Yeah.
Godsmack.
Yeah,
I was
we
a
got
little
to
worried
do
we were gonna get through this whole draft without a Sum 41 album, so
I had to
I'm
do
glad
it.
Brett took them.
good job,
Yeah,
Brett.
they were my first ever concert. It was Blink, Sum 41, and Alkaline Trio.
God damn,
What a show.
Pretty ridiculous.
heavy
Yeah,
hitters,
pretty
man.
ridiculous, right?
All right. My final pick. I'm gonna have to refer to the panel for this one because it's right on the end. It's the 2011 album. I think it definitely falls under emo, but the front bottom self-titled.
That's emo.
I
Yeah,
need
front
this
bottom's
album. Yeah. I mean, what can you say? Like just listening to him sing and singing along with those songs, like it's one of those bands that you just feel like they're speaking to you, and like, man, when you're just like a sad boy, it's a great album. It's so fun. The guitar riffs are great. Very like pop punky in the sense that like they got their root note and they dance around off it. And I mean Brian Sella, he's the man. Love the
All-time
front
live
bottoms.
band too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, every song on that album is amazing. I love the second half of it. Like my wife's house before we were married used to be like about 15-20 minutes from mine, so I'd put on from like swimming pool through the end, and it was just great, like nighttime driving music. It's like acoustic but not at the same time. It's just I love them.
And their lyrics are so specific. Like no one writes songs like they do, other than maybe Modern Baseball. But
Yeah, 2014, I checked, but front bottoms trumps them. So
we'll save that for
Yeah.
2011 through 2022.
because I
Or
feel like
2012 through
front
2022.
bottoms are almost like, I mean, they definitely are like a new era from most of the music we've been picking, but we put 2011 on there, so I'm taking
They're part of the
advantage
emo
it.
revival, as they called it.
Yeah.
All right, Frank.
Mr. Irrelevant. All right. This is a no-brainer for me. I don't know how you guys feel, but Chiodos, all's well that ends well. For me, like they were actually in my 2-tier. I had tiers. 2005, Frank thought Craig Owens was the greatest singer that ever existed. So when you were talking post-hardcore, like the mix between screaming and clean vocals, like
Yeah.
that's who comes to mind for me. Like Silverstein is awesome, no doubt, but like Chiodos to me was like my entrance. It was them and Seosin were like the two that I obsessed over. The word best friend, the intro riff has to be one of like the best of that era. And then if your stomach feels weak, then my work here is done. Like, oh, that song just gets me. Baby, you wouldn't last a minute on the creek, and there's no penguins in Alaska. Two of my favorite live songs, which I don't know if I'll ever. Does Chiodos even tour anymore? I don't even know. But like in There's No Penguins in Alaska, there you go. Dun, 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 dun. Woo! Like it just like pulled stuff out of me. But like this for me is an end-to-end album. They're super weird, like songs, like they have like a lot of like sour notes. They don't follow scales or anything like that. But for me, it's like a perfect one to end my list. I feel like they're like a huge part of that era for me.
Is there any other better line in a song than "I'll stop stabbing when you stop screaming"?
Oh,
A little dark.
yeah.
I had a
Extremely
sweatshirt
emo.
that said that. I don't know why I wore that.
So good.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Frank, we were
The
talking
album
about
was-
it before. I was thinking Bullet for my Valentine, The Poison. That was one of the first like real heavy albums I got where the screams were flirting with that line of too much, but it worked well.
Yeah. Like I even had some like full hard, like I wanted to put Constellations by August Burns Red on here,
Ooh.
but it was just like too far. But like to
Yeah.
me, if you're thinking hard, like that's my favorite hardcore like album I've ever listened to. Just every member in that band is the best at their respective instrument that I've ever seen in my life. But
Do you think they'd be a better band with a clean vocalist?
so it just I feel like I've boxed August Burns Red in the box of when I want to rip, like that's what I'll put on. There was a few years ago, Sean, we were working at a local Vox that their bassist came out with a pop punk album. That was one of a awesome pop punk album, but just showed like how great they were as songwriters. Their Christmas album is the best Christmas album, Christmas pop punk or Christmas of that genre. I would love to see them with a clean vocalist, but I also absolutely respect them as just a full hardcore screaming band.
Yeah, they're
Fair.
incredibly talented musicians. I'm pretty sure they've won Grammys. Like they're not just your average hardcore band, right? Their drummer's probably the best drummer I've ever seen in my entire life. He's absolutely insane.
I used to watch YouTube videos of just him playing, like just him by himself, and
Yeah.
just be like in a daze.
So unassuming too. Like
crazy.
you look at him, he just looks like a gym teacher.
He runs a farm.
He runs a farm. They're all like Christian. It's like a Christian band.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Oh man.
Nice work, everybody.
Yeah.
The album
Do we
that
want-
this is dedicated to did not get drafted.
I know, that's crazy. I wanted to. Can I talk about Sticks and Stones for a second? since I just
Absolutely.
came
Yeah,
out?
go for it.
Because obviously I'm a gigantic New Found Glory fan. I was just at the show this past weekend where they played the album from front to back. I've seen them play that now probably like 6 or 7 times from front to back. But again, like that was probably their big first success, riding the coattails of Blank, right? Where they were on TRL and they were riding that wave of pop punk success. But I guess really the only note that I wanted to bring up about this album is the first time I ever listened to it, I had it on my CD player and I fell asleep listening to it. And about 30 minutes after the last song ends, there's a gigantic scream and you start hearing these like muffled vocals of someone's in your house, someone's in your house. And that was one of my first introductions to bands, letting the final song play out and then throwing in some like bonus material. But that terrified me when I was a kid.
I can just picture Matt like, oh my god, what's happening?
They did it for the 3 people that actually fell asleep listening to the album.
Yeah.
terrifying. I don't know, some other big, like I have a lot of albums written down, but some big heavy hitters I'm shocked no one picked other than Sticks and Stones. Enemy of the World, 4 Years Strong, just based on the company here. What Separates Me From You, A Day to Remember, From Under the Cork Tree, Fall Out Boy.
Actually,
Well.
to pause there, when we're talking about some of the best follow-up albums in this genre, Under the Cork Tree was the second one that came to my mind after Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I didn't want to say because I knew it had a
Yeah.
chance, but like
I wanted to mention, I mean, I took Black Parade, but like that was a follow-up to Three
Yeah.
Cheers. Like that's pretty.
Yeah,
original.
that's great. Yeah, I agree.
Three Cheers.
There's,
was pretty good. Yeah.
No pads, no helmets, just balls, simple
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah.
right? What else?
Young
Shocked
and
that you guys
Hopeless.
took I Am the Avalanche.
oh dude,
I just
they're on my
don't-
list.
Yeah. Page Avenue, Story of the Year. I don't know if you guys were into
forgot
that.
about-
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Forgot about them.
I completely forgot about
Damn.
Story of the Year.
Not
Do you
that I
know,
would have been proud of putting this. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, do you know, when the Used was first touring their self-titled album, I saw the Used with Story of the Year and My Chemical Romance as openers,
Wow.
which like
Now they both
I'm
jumped
looking-
them.
I was gonna say, like, look how quickly both those bands jumped the Used after that. Go ahead, Frankie.
I was just gonna say, not that I would have been proud to take this, but The Young and the Hopeless by Good Charlotte.
Yeah.
I
Another
could've-
band,
That's
right?
a great album.
I thought
Fantastic album.
that was going for sure, but
Yeah, that was a big one.
So
What
Matt-
to Do When You're
oh, go ahead.
Dead? Armor for Sleep. Any of you guys into
Mm.
that one? That was a
I-
fantastic album.
you guys talked about that last week.
Yeah, one
Armor
of
for
the
Sleep.
Yeah.
first concept albums that it was up there
Mm-hmm.
with my
Yeah.
little early 2000s concept album discovery run. It was a
We,
great one, though.
Such a good album, man.
Yeah, they
Remember
didn't
to
really
Feel
ever follow
Real.
it up. Yeah.
No,
No, I know.
their next album was not bad, but I couldn't
Yeah.
name one song off of it.
Yeah, I couldn't quite. It wasn't bad, but I couldn't get into it. It
Yeah.
just, it was.
Didn't it
tough-
come out like
too
10
hard.
years later?
I don't know if it was that far. What had Dream to Make Believe? Is that what it was? think that's
I think I'm thinking of like
Mm.
Acceptance. They put out like
Wasn't
Is that the name
Dream
of the
to
band?
Make Believe the previous
Before.
album?
Yeah, because I really like that song, My
Yeah.
Town. Off of
Yeah, that was, I
Dream to Make
think,
Believe
Oh,
first.
Smile
Yeah.
for Them. That's what it was
that.
called.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
but the on What to Do When You're Dead, like 1, 2, 3, just hitting Car Underwater, Truth About Heaven, and Remember to Feel
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah.
Yeah, the song
then,
that's
like, you
such a
c-
strong intro.
And then
Yeah.
Awkward Last Words, like chased it all with like or followed it rather, but like with just really the slowness of the whole thing. Like the album was one cohesive piece.
Yeah.
It was just super cool.
That's probably why it was hard to follow up, because like if your
Yeah.
first album's a strong concept album, like where do you go?
Yeah. Danger
Frank, were
Days.
you gonna say that the album falls off for you after the first 3 songs?
I was gonna, not that it falls off. I just like, I told you I was a playlist guy. So
Yeah.
a lot of times with emo bands just had singles. I know it's a sin, but that's what happened with me for Armor for Sleep is I would just run those 3 songs over and over and
Same.
over and over again.
Same thing for me. Same thing for me. Some other bands I'm surprised no one mentioned. No All Time Low. No
Miss me
No,
with that all time low.
yeah, no All Time Low. No Avril Lavigne. I think
Oh,
that was
Great point.
low
Well,
key.
she's back, man. So
Let Go just
Because
turned
I
20
lo-
this week.
I love her
Yeah.
new album. I think her new album's
it
awesome.
is good. Dude, Noah
Yeah.
Treyu, The Curse.
Oh,
Atreyu, that-
no, the
That
other
was-
one, say, Ships. What was
Suicide
it?
Notes and
Oh,
Butterfly Kisses.
But that was
That was one I
Suicide
was
Notes,
super
Butter,
into.
and then the Shipwreck one. That was
2009,
They-
I think, right?
they had, because what was the one with X's and O's on it?
Oh, the one with the little
Was-
flame on the front.
Yeah, the guy's on fire.
They're a solid
that-
band.
Yeah,
Fair
Lead
enough.
Sails and Paper Anchors was my go-to for them when I was younger. And The Curse was great, but
Oh yeah, that was like
I
07.
love The Curse.
and
I
they had
love
a
The
great
Curse.
best of album. That was very early in their career.
Yeah, I love the cockiness of like, we have 3 great songs, so we're gonna put a best of out there. Yeah, Treyu for me is just like, but they're one of those bands. There was a bunch in this era, like Scary Kids, Scaring Kids. I don't know if anybody really cares about
Yeah.
them.
City
But-
Sleeps in Flames was a good song.
They had
Yeah.
2 albums,
I like
and
that
like
one.
I like songs from both, but like combined, they don't have a great album.
Yeah.
I agree with
That's
you. on that.
fair.
They're
Nick,
kind of-
Nick, what happened to the singer of Scary Kids?
Yeah, whoops.
Yes.
I don't think I said anything bad. I just said I
No,
don't know
no, you
where he
didn't.
is.
Not at all. I just thought it really
Yeah,
funny.
Brett-
I don't know what
texted
happened
me.
to him. And I'm like, he's dead.
So
Ugh.
set your goals. This will be the death of us. Was almost
Yeah, I
there.
had that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, that
Matt, I'm surprised
that
you didn't bring up. Sorry, I'm surprised you didn't mention Under Soil and Dirt by the Story so
Yep.
far.
Dude, that was the
mine.
2011 one I was
It
saying.
just made the
No.
cut. Yeah.
it's one of my favorite albums, but I just feel like it wasn't in the spirit of the exercise, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
That's how I felt too. Like I knew it made the cut, but it didn't feel like because we were talking about those like peak years of pop punk, it didn't feel like it warranted being in that conversation.
I pair them with Neck Deep more than I pair them with like bands. I bet if we plotted the release dates of all the albums we chose, we probably didn't need to include 2011
Probably not.
because
Yeah.
We got-
Oh,
we
I got my Front
Nick
Bottoms
as
album.
front end.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I probably would have took the Armor for Sleep album or maybe Story of the Year now that they were reminded.
completely forgot.
Anyone
about-
listen to This Time Next Year? They had an
Yeah.
album called
Yes.
Drop Out of Life. That
Yeah.
was really
Wait,
good.
That was a good one.
Wow, I haven't listened to them. in a
John
while.
and I think we listened to that album like over and over
Yeah,
again.
That was
in
so
senior
good.
year.
That was a repeat
Yeah.
album for me. And then they just like called it. They had like 2 or 3 maybe, and they just went back to like day jobs. I think it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
They were good, yeah. No Thrice surprised me.
I had them
Oh.
on mine. Artist in the
Artist in the
Ambulance. I almost
Ambulance.
picked.
Yeah.
And then Amberlin, man. I feel like
Oh.
nobody ever talks about
It's my
Amberlin.
wife's favorite band. I've seen them as so many times with her. They're doing 3 shows in Asbury in the summer. We're going to at least.
Do you
one of
like them?
I like them. Not as much. They're like my wife's all time. Our first dance was to shit. She's gonna kill me. I forget the name now.
Pause.
it's-
Yeah.
I'll fix it in post.
Yeah,
Edit
just
it.
edit. Just like a robot voice. It's never take friendship personal.
Oh, First Last Kiss is like, I don't know the name, but that's the. It's late.
That's how it
Okay.
goes.
Yeah.
We've been podcasting for like 4
Doing
days. I'm tired.
Oh my god, this is awesome. I agree.
Yeah,
with
this
that.
was fun. We definitely have to run this back with different themes.
Yeah.
Were you serious on the butt rock? Because I would totally do
I
butt
would
rock and new
love
metal.
that.
So
I'll get
dude, Taproot poem. Let's go.
Breaking Benjamin, 3 Days
Significant
Grace,
other.
Yeah. Dude, that was original. So
Disturbed. Oh man, that would be fun.
Oh.
I'd be
can we,
so
I don't
down.
even want to consider that.
Puddle of
fun.
Mud.
Disturb rips. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Puddle
Is
of Mud. It is Bud Rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 Days Grace.
Walmart Nirvana for Puddle of Mud.
That's funny. If you ever want to see something funny, they did a blurry acoustic version, and he's so bad at singing.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I,
it's
did-
so
I saw that.
It's so
It was like
bad.
on Sirius XM, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they definitely set up. So I know
Yeah.
Linkin Park Hybrid Theory can make it. So I was like trying to like get some notes on it just in case you guys did allow it. You know, it sold like double the albums of Enema of the State.
Did it
I
really?
believe it.
They're
Isn't
like
that-
they're worldwide. Like,
crazy.
they're
That was a massive album when that came out.
Yeah.
like that blew my mind. And that's not saying like I didn't think Hybrid Theory had more albums sold, but like to double the impact that Enema of the State has. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's crazy. That is crazy.
And they
Yeah.
toured on that for 3 years, I think, until they put Meteor out.
I would have
Which
thought
was
it'd be
a-
closer. I'm surprised that it just blew Enema of the State away like that.
Yeah, I think it was like if I'm being honest, it was like 27 million to 15 million,
wow.
which is
Still, though,
just
that's pretty much double.
It's almost double, man.
They're like
Nice.
huge in like Spain and stuff. Like some of these bands just like are worldwide. Like I know like Avenged Sevenfold has fans like all over the world. Like I don't know, they haven't really been up to anything in a long time, but some of these bands just like I don't know how many. I guess Blink's probably worldwide too, right? They're Blink
Yeah.
182.
Yeah, they have to.
They're definitely worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I don't know. That's just Linkin Park invented a genre as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. Like they
you could
deserve
argue
it.
Linkin Park might be like top 10 biggest rock bands ever.
Like everyone owned Hybrid Theory when it came out. I didn't know a single person that didn't have it.
Like
Yeah.
if you broke it into generations, name a bigger rock band
Foo
than
Fighters,
Linkin Park. I feel like they're probably
close.
they got to be close.
Yeah, Linkin Park is they're big ones. Yeah, we'd have to look at the numbers. I'm also
Weird Al
curious to
Yankovic.
see in terms of the
Yeah, this era, great.
in terms of the road trip idea, who picked the most cumulative minutes of albums?
Smart.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can throw that
Who's
together.
like-
I have all your lists here.
Who's getting the
so-
most bang for their buck? I'm gonna put all these albums on a playlist.
I'm just
Just
looking
like
at the
Hitchcock
track
Films, pretty
times of all these bands, and it's like 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Majority of them.
American
Uh,
Idiot's gonna pad the numbers for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, that helps
that
you.
was a smart
And
move.
Black
You-
Parade might too.
And
you
Devil
can
and
get through
God,
a
I think,
couple
is long.
states.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't pick really any 30-minute ones. Even
Is
like,
Real Boy is long. Devil and God is long.
Yeah, I might be taking the. It's like Mario Party when you get like those extra stars at the end. We'll see who gets the stars shortest, longest.
You'll finish your road trip on 4 albums.
I'll just sit in the parking lot when I get there just to finish that.
Matt, you know what was crazy? I realized we probably want to end this podcast, but no movie life.
Mm.
I was going to say no 40-hour train to Penn.
No,
Back to
I
Ben.
really. The thing is I really love that album, but I think I like their EP. Movie
Gambling
Life has a gambling problem even more,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to
Yeah.
go with an EP. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like 40-hour train back to them, but Gambling Problem is 5 solid songs slapped
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. I think this is a good point to wrap it up.
God damn. 2.5-hour podcast, boys.
Yeah. It's a beefy one.
All goodness, though.
Oh
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys thinking of just releasing this straight up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not editing this. Are you crazy? Other than that one part.
well, thank you guys very much for having us. This was a ton of fun. Definitely
Yeah,
would love to
thanks,
come back
guys.
and do some other drafts.
Yeah, anytime.
Definitely have
And
you back on.
And send in voicemails, guys, because we love having voicemails at the end, and we're always begging our friends. So feel free to just send in a question.
Sounds good.
Help us out.
You
Yeah.
can leave this part in because we are begging for questions. Too, so.
I don't care.
We'll plug it.
Yeah.
No, but legit, like bucket list, like podcast was like always something I wanted to like be a part of. So like, this
Cool.
was awesome. Appreciate it.
You're welcome back
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah,
No.
thanks, guys.
All
Matt,
right, now you
thanks for
got
bringing the
start.
notes. The notes were
Yeah, you got it. You got
A
it.
plus.
I'll get butt rock notes. You have no idea. I'll just pull out my drawing of Lincoln Park that I had on my bedroom wall.
Frank will just shit out some butt rock notes. It's going to be great.
You know, Puddle of Mud wrote this song in 15 minutes.
You know, Puddle of Mud was discovered by
long,
Fred
huh?
Durst.
You know,
Talks
Puddle
about
of
Fred
Mud was-
Durst for a half hour.
You know, Puddle of Mud was on Drive Through Records, and then they're like, "What the fuck are we doing?" All right, we need to go to bed.
Yes, I'm calling it.
All right.
We've gone too far.
But when
All
will
right.
this be posted?
Next Thursday, or
Nice,
like a week.
Yeah,
from
a
today.
week from today.
Yeah.
awesome,
All right.
great stuff.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
We'll talk
Thanks,
soon.
guys.